Ortiz versus Malik Scott. Luis Ortiz managed to pull off a 12-round unanimous decision over Malik Scott, basically winning by a virtual shutout. Only one judge gave him 1 round. Managed to drop Malik Scott, and was able to hurt him a couple times, but overall didn't necessarily look all that impressive. Malik Scott kind of spoiled, danced around. Some may use the word ran. He did a little bit of that. There was very little engagement on Malik Scott's part for most of the fight. There was definitely one round, I believe it was round, what was it, about 6 or 7, where he was kind of in a shoulder roll stance, managed to land an overhand right that rocked Ortiz back, knocked him off balance. That was a pretty good round for Malik Scott. But overall, Ortiz just too physical, too powerful, too strong. Was able to drop Malik Scott. If I think it was 3 times. Yeah, I believe it was 3 times that he dropped Malik Scott, and just finished off the fight. But he didn't look all that great. Like he was having a trouble cutting off the ring. Really doesn't necessarily have the ability to be real fleet-footed. At least not on the front foot anyway. He's been a pretty good mid-range or back foot type of a fighter. But he hasn't been necessarily the best on the inside, and Malik Scott may have proven that he's not necessarily the greatest on the outside as well. It's almost like he needs to be right in that mid-range in order to be him and to be at optimal effectiveness. So Malik Scott may have exposed a couple of flaws in Luis Ortiz, openness to the right hand, and just an openness at long distance that somebody like taller opponents like Deontay Wilder, like Tyson Fury, like Anthony Joshua may be able to take advantage of. I definitely don't count Luis Ortiz out in any of the elite fights necessarily, but I don't really rate him as the favorite in those fights, against the guys that I just mentioned. But I mean, he's definitely still a top operator. It'll be interesting to see if he manages to get any of those fights anytime soon. It'd be pretty funny if Eddie Hearn tries to steer him in order to try and knock off Deontay Wilder, and then have a in-house unification basically between Ortiz and Anthony Joshua. That'd be pretty interesting. Or if he was to try and steer him towards the winner of Joseph Parker versus Andy Ruiz, depending on how that turns out. So that's definitely a very interesting fight at the heavyweight division that's going to be happening in the near future. Definitely one of the fights that should be happening, and hopefully it'll be a sign of things to come for the near future of the heavyweight division after 2016 kind of became a big letdown. But, I mean, Ortiz managed to get the job done. I mean, of course, you can be critical of him for the fact that he wasn't able to cut off the ring, wasn't able to be more impressive, wasn't able to knock Malik Scott out the way that even Derek Chisora was able to do. But at the same time, it's just kind of a stylistic flaw for Ortiz. And, for those guys to beat him, you can't just necessarily fight to survive the way that Malik Scott did. You have to fight to win. And that basically opens you up to some of those big power shots that Ortiz is capable of throwing. And, Ortiz was kind of in cruise control for the most part as well against Malik Scott. Even though he was looking a little bit frustrated, looking a little bit like Canelo, funny enough, against Arslan Lara. Banging his gloves together, putting his hands out like, come on, are you here to fight or what? But, like I said, against the Wilders, the Joshuas, the Parkers, the Ruizes, the Furies of the world, those guys are going to have to fight to win as well. They're going to have to throw some punches. But at the same time, at the long distance, he's proven to be outboxable. And that's definitely the road to victory, the path to victory that I think a lot of those guys will potentially try to take against Mr. Ortiz. But, I mean, Ortiz overall, still a dangerous man, still a dangerous fighter, still one of the most dangerous fighters in the division, as well as in the sport, just overall. Huge power in both hands, good skill set, good punch variety and everything. But who knows? Maybe at his age he may be slowing down. It's entirely possible. I mean, I could definitely see the reason why he wasn't really the premier amateur heavyweight for the Cuban boxing team, considering the fact that he was a stablemate of Odlanier Solis, because Odlanier Solis was definitely more of a fleet-footed guy, and so I could see Solis being able to beat him, especially in the amateur system, where it's more about kind of poke and not get hit, not necessarily hit and not get hit, but poke and not get hit. A lot of slapping and stuff like that. Just kind of freeze tag, speed tag. In the old school style of amateur scoring, whereas Ortiz is more of like a pro style, kind of sit down your punches, set your feet, and let the power swing. But I mean, overall, Ortiz managed to get the job done in dominant fashion. Malik Scott was a very awkward style for him to figure out, and he definitely still a major player in the heavyweight division. So anytime he fights, everybody's going to be reporting on it. So that's pretty much what I got to say about this fight. Pretty cut and dry type of fight to call, and that's all there is to it. So catch you guys in the next one. Peace.